Hello again. Welcome back to Satan's Trilogy. This is Book 3, Chapter 2, and it will be reading 75. I am the author and the narrator. Sit back, relax, and let the story unfold. Esther, eyes opened. She had Daniel's left arm over her waist, and Tracy was nuzzled up against her on the other side. The twins were in deep sleep. They were breathing soft and steady. Esther was wide awake. The time was 4:05 a.m. Slowly moving Danielle's arm, Esther managed to escape her grasp and to leave the air mattress without awakening either twin. Esther stood at the foot of the air mattress for a moment. The twins were certainly two of the most beautiful young women she had ever known. She understood their lives had not been easy and understood that everyone has some pain in his or her life. Esther thought to herself, with any luck, they will also have some happiness and love. When times are good, we need to stop and breathe deep the air around us and enjoy the moment. Esther left the bedroom and went into the kitchen to prepare some fresh bread. Esther didn't consider herself a baker, yet it was rewarding to experience the aromas of fresh-baked breads and to share them with others. It was simpler than being a great chef, and yet, Esther understood for many, they felt the rewards of baking just as great. Removing the towel from the large bowl, the dough had raised nearly sixfold. While spreading some flour on the counter, she noticed Aunt Brandy entering the living room from her end of the apartment. Esther moved quickly to greet her aunt and said, "Aunt Brandy, it is early. Shouldn't you be sleeping?" Esther stood in front of her aunt. Brandy looked at Esther. "I knew you would be awake, and I just wanted to spend some time with you." Brandy smiled at Esther and moved her fingers through Esther's hair. "I know that you are not a little girl, and I wish that I had been with you when you were a child." Esther hugged her aunt and said, "We have each other now, and I wouldn't trade this for a fortune. I have a good feeling about us, and we are going to share many years together. We may not always live together, but Chicago is my home now, and I don't plan on ever leaving." The two girls were getting a bit emotional, and Esther decided it was time to change the subject. "And Brandy, I am making bread. How would you like to help?" Brandy became very interested. "That sounds wonderful. Can I have some Jamaican coffee while we make bread?" Esther chuckled. "You bet." Esther started the coffee maker and turned back to Aunt Brandy, commenting, "I have a feeling you may enjoy this." Within a few minutes, Esther had fresh, hot Jamaican coffee in front of Aunt Brandy, and she had Aunt Brandy standing in front of the kitchen counter, helping her spread flour on the countertop. Esther then pulled a large bowl forward and removed the towel from the top. Inside of the bowl was a very large amount of raised bread dough. "Now let us divide the dough into two portions." Esther cut the dough into two sections and handed half to Brandy. "All right, follow me and handle the dough the same way." Esther started to press the dough down and folding it over as she worked the dough. Within 6 minutes or less, the girls had both dropped 2 loaves of bread dough into pans and placed them in the oven. And Brandy was having a wonderful time with the new experience. Esther, that was great. How long for the bread to bake? Asked Brandy. Esther said, We watched the crust. It should take about 18 minutes, but there are variables. Brandy took her Jamaican coffee to the table, sat down, and started talking. When your dad and I were little, we would walk several blocks to a bakery called Carol's. We usually bought some cookies, but I always enjoyed the fresh baked bread smell. Every time I smell fresh bread, I think of that time. Your dad was good with saving money, and usually he would only buy the sale items. That is how he managed to buy the Mustang. He paid cash, you know. He was always good with money. Brandy paused for a moment and added, Eventually, I learned to be more like your father, but it took some time. Esther had taken a chair from Aunt Brandy and was listening to her talk. Esther smiled at her aunt and said, Dad told me about Carl's Bakery. He said the two of you had some of your best conversations while walking to and from the bakery. He said his favorite cookie was their chocolate chip. Brandy smiled. That is right. Sparking a memory, Aunt Brandy said, Adam also loved the raisin oatmeal cookie, but he never paid full price. It had to be on sale. Brandy was so pleased with the memory that she relaxed just into the chair and sipped her cup of Jamaican coffee. At that moment, two girls walked into the kitchen from Esther's side of the apartment. The twins were awake, but not completely. They looked really cute with black panties and tops. Esther jumped up and ran to them. Tracy and Danielle, why are you awake? We could smell the wonderful coffee and the fresh bread baking, said Tracy. We may require a bit more sleep than you, but we are awake and ready to go. Besides, no one could stay in bed with the wonderful aromas that you create in the kitchen. Danielle added, Besides, I think that I am hungry. Esther chuckled and said, Well, take a chair at the table then. I can whip up breakfast in no time at all. Esther helped them to the table and grabbed 2 coffee cups along the way. She then quickly poured the twins some Jamaican coffee and asked if either girl needed cream or sugar. Holding their cup of coffee and enjoying the aromas, Danielle said, No thanks, Esther. Tracy and I both drink our coffee black. Then Tracy added, Unless it is bad coffee. Then we need some cream and a bit of sugar. However, this is great coffee. It is just as good as our Keurig machine makes. Esther laughed and said, Well, then I'll whip up breakfast and we can all enjoy an early morning meal. Esther turned and quickly moved some skillets about on the stove, and within 6 minutes she had sausage, scrambled eggs, and 2 loaves of bread pulled from the oven, sliced into thick pieces, and presented in a wicker basket, all on the table. Brandy said, Esther, you look so professional behind the stove, and you look happy at your task. I realize now that you really will be happy as a chef. Esther had been preparing the table and said, You're right on, Aunt Brandy. I love creating foods that people will enjoy. Esther pulled up her chair, looked at the food on the table and said, Please enjoy this food. She grabbed a bowl of scrambled eggs and placed some onto her plate. She then passed them to her left, and Tracy continued the process of spooning some out and then passing the bowl to her left. It was a wonderful breakfast, and everyone was delightfully full. and the morning seemed to be a wonderful invitation to enjoy a perfect day. It was still early, and no one seemed interested in moving from the table. Tracy spoke first. Our dad loved breakfast. He always said it was the most important meal of the day. Danielle added. His favorite meal was sausage links, home fries, and eggs over easy, with a couple pieces of toast on the side. He was in heaven. Danielle smiled at the memory. Tracy spoke up. Well, maybe 5 or 6 pieces of toast. He was a big man and a strong man, with an appetite to match. The twins sat quietly and sipped their coffee. Esther had grabbed the coffee pot and was refreshing everyone's coffee. Placing the coffee pot back on its base, Esther returned to the table. Esther looked at the twins. My father is also gone. I don't think he had a favorite meal. He did love Chicago hot dogs, though. He mentioned more than once the street vendors and the hot dogs they sold. Brandy smiled, then said, my brother could easily eat 4 or 5 Chicago hot dogs. He simply loved them. He called them a complete meal on a bun. Esther chuckled at Brandy's story, then said, I can eat a hot dog, but I want a toasted onion bun and, of course, onion relish, ketchup, and mustard. Some chili on top would be great, too. Danielle said, Esther, that really sounds great. Brandy jumped in. I could probably handle 1 or 2. She turned to Esther and said, well, you make it sound so good. Everyone chuckled and laughed. It was time to start the day. The conversation had been wonderful, and everyone seemed to sense the bond between them was stronger. Well, I guess it is time to start the day, said Esther. Tracy and Danielle, please be ready at 3, and we will take your training to another level. Esther grabbed her dishes from breakfast, rinsed them off, and put them into the dishwasher. She knew that everyone would follow her example. Brandy dressed and left first. Then Esther quickly followed her. The twins looked at each other. Danielle said, what is on today's agenda? Tracy looked at Danielle with a grin, held up Esther's credit card. We haven't even come close to the max. Why don't we shop? Danielle grinned and said, that is my favorite pastime. I need to look for a jacket. The twins went to the bedroom to dress and prepare for the day. Esther's Mustang was with Day, and so Esther was on the Ninja. She was now wearing a customized full-head helmet provided by her friend John. The helmet had several special features. The first was a direct link to her phone via voice command, activated whenever she wore the helmet. This would aid Esther in communicating on the phone while writing. The software program was called W.O.W. and was a state-of-the-art military tool. Similar to commercial programs on the market, W.O.W. was far superior. Once on the Ninja, Esther said, Mo, call Day. The phone was ringing and Day picked up. Good morning, Day, said Esther. Are you on the way to school? Yes, I am about 6 minutes away from school. Where are you, Esther? Asked Day. Esther quickly replied, if traffic is no worse than usual, we will arrive at the same time. Day asked, what did you have for breakfast? Esther replied, it was simple this morning, sausage links, scrambled eggs, and freshly baked bread. Everything was wonderful, and the Jamaican coffee was great as usual. Day replied, that sounds wonderful, Esther. Dad and I had some cereal and fresh fruit. It was great having breakfast with Dad, but it could never compete with your cooking. At that moment, Esther and Day both reached the school's parking lot. They pulled in first and parked at her designated space, while Esther was able to ride up closer to the school and park her Ninja alongside the edge of the school, where the motorcycles were assigned parking. As usual, John and his crew were standing there, and they greeted Esther. John spoke first. "Good morning, Esther. It's good to see you this morning. I really wanted to thank you for including us yesterday in your training class. We knew that I would be excited to see the twins, but truthfully, I enjoyed the class much more. I am honored that you included us." Esther gave John a look and then said, "John, the twins are here for 2 more days. I will be giving 2 more lessons before they have to leave. Your crew and you are invited to come on both days if you wish." John quickly replied, "I will be there." He turned to his crew, and both Mike and Wes nodded yes, they would be there. At that moment, they walked up, saying, "Good morning, everyone. This day marks the countdown to graduation. We have only 18 days of school left." Day smiled, "And then it is on to whatever we want, and it is paid for." John quickly replied, "Good morning, Day, and yes, I know that is down to 18 days. It sure seems like the 4 years here went fast." Day said, "It's odd. I thought that the 8 years in grade school went on forever, yet 4 years of high school went quickly. Seems odd." Mike and Wes, standing alongside John, were agreeing. Wes spoke up, "My first day here, I remember Mr. Little in my first hour English class saying that 4 years would go quickly." Wes smiled and added, "He was right." Day quickly agreed. "It seems most teachers understand this and warn us, yet I couldn't imagine that time would go so quickly, and yet it did." Esther laughed. "Let's go inside. We are looking at the last days of school." Everyone walked to the school's front entrance. The line waiting to go into the front was shorter than usual. Esther, Day, John, and crew were scanned and through the screening process within minutes. Esther said to John and his crew, "I'll see you at the warehouse at 3 o'clock. Have a great day." John answered to Esther, "You have a great day too, Esther, and that goes for you too, Day." The girls took off for their first class, and John and crew did the same. Reaching the end of the year, attitudes always change, yet this year things were different. Everyone had a guaranteed scholarship, and the character of the school was more peaceful. No one was looking to hassle another person. Everyone was focused on doing their best in classroom. It seemed that studies had finally taken priority. The math class, as usual, seemed a bit comical, with the boys trying their best and falling short. The girls had wrapped up their defeat of the boys in the competition, and so they would be able to choose where the class could celebrate the end of the semester and the class. At 6th hour PE, Esther and Day arrived at the locker room at the same time. The room was full of girls talking and laughing on every subject imaginable. Esther went to her locker and found Amy, changing into her running clothes. "Amy, you're looking really healthy," said Esther. "This class has made a new girl out of you." Amy pulled her tank top over her head and looked at Esther, slightly blushing. "Thanks, Esther. It has been so rewarding to be in this class. The sense of competitiveness has been huge, and I somehow joined in with it." Amy smiled and added, "You're right. I am different, and I think a better person for this experience." Esther gave Amy a hug and said, "I think that you are the one that can lead us to a huge victory." Amy looked surprised, and Esther explained, "I encourage my friends to run hard, and you wanted to follow me while running. It was your willingness to accept our challenge that sparked the class to keep pace with us. The majority of the class saw you trying to keep pace with us, and they didn't want to fall behind. No one was trying to beat the Gothic girls. They were trying to beat you. My friends improved, you improved, and the class improved. This Saturday, I think that you can win the entire race. As a matter of fact, I am cheering for you. Amy stood still listening to Esther. She hadn't realized her position in the scheme of the class running, and yet she couldn't argue with Esther what she had said. She had tried hard to keep up with Esther and, indirectly, Esther's friends. Miss Strong blew her whistle and yelled, "All right, girls, let's be on the bleachers in 6 minutes." Everyone on the bleachers in the old gymnasium waiting for class to begin. Miss Strong walked out and excitedly started to talk. "Girls, I don't want to change a thing with our running today. You will run our own cross-country path at the best time possible. On Friday, we will not run. We will review the race route and discuss our possible strategy." Miss Strong then added, "Don't forget that on Thursday, we will all go to Marco's and receive a free Gothic outfit. That will happen immediately after our class. The school is providing a bus for us. Anyone needing a ride home after we return will be provided one." Miss Strong took a deep breath. "Friday, we also will share a runner's meal of pasta at Italy's Pizza Parlor. This is all so exciting that I doubt I'll ever see another time like this. You have all made the class of 2014 a class to remember," said Ms. Strong. Ms. Strong stood proudly in front of the girls and said, "All right, we have 3 more days to improve our running. I can't believe that you can improve on yesterday's run, but let's see what happens. The race starts now." Ms. Strong started her stopwatch. The girls understood the challenge Ms. Strong had just posed them, and everyone jumped off the bleachers and ran for the cross-country trail. Immediately, Esther and her Gothic friends took the lead, with Amy following close behind. Today, the entire class was on the heels of the Gothic girls and within seconds of passing them, although that never happened. The run ended with the Gothic girls back first, followed by Amy, and the rest of the class within seconds of her. Everyone was in the locker room and taking deep breaths. Miss Strong entered the locker room and yelled out, "Girls, you have shaved another 3 seconds off the school's best time." Miss Strong yelled out, "This was a great run for each and every one of you." Miss Strong added, "Let's try to be on the bleachers in 12 minutes. The class showered and dressed in very little time. Miss Strong looked at the girls on the bleachers and said, "This looks like everyone. Are we missing anyone? I need all 60 girls here." Miss Strong took a moment and continued, "Let me start by saying that you have all earned an A for this class." Everyone applauded themselves, interrupting Miss Strong's speech. She waited for the girls to quiet down and continued, "That is something I have never seen before, and doubt that I'll see again. Not one of you girls quit. Not one of you girls gave less than 100%, and not one of you girls have failed to astound me." Miss Strong motioned to a dozen boxes behind her. "These are our running uniforms for our cross-country competition. I think that you will be impressed. A successful friend of mine designed them, and the school's anonymous benefactor has paid for them. There are several designs, and I am told if we need more, they will be made available by Saturday. The boxes have sizes marked on them. Please find the uniform you want." All 60 girls immediately jumped down from their bleachers and started to look through the boxes of uniforms. There were at least 3 times more uniforms than needed. This was done to guarantee that each girl could have the design on her clothes that she wanted. The bell rang for the next class and no one moved. This was more important than getting to the next class on time. Miss Strong yelled out, "Take your time. I will sign a late pass to your next class if necessary." Esther and her friends didn't have to worry about this because they were seniors and could now leave the school's grounds. Miss Strong didn't have a 7th-hour class, so there were no students waiting for them to leave. No one felt pressured to choose their uniforms quickly. After a lot of discussion and comparisons, all the girls had found a uniform that they were happy with. No one seemed eager to leave and waited for the others. They all stood at the exit, holding their new uniforms and waiting for dismissal by the instructor. Miss Strong looked at the girls and said, "The entire class had found a uniform they are proud to wear. All right, that is good. One last thing. The school body has been made aware of your accomplishments, and you are all celebrities." Miss Strong giggled and then added, "I am not joking, so please try to be humble, and you are all dismissed." Everyone quickly left for their next class, and of course the seniors were allowed to leave the school. Esther went straight to her locker and grabbed her helmet, and then she went to her ninja and found John and crew waiting for her. They chatted a bit, and soon day arrived. Esther hugged her sister and said, "Why don't you pick up the twins and me, and we'll all go to the warehouse together?" Day said, "I will go straight to your apartment." Esther looked at John and his crew and said, "We'll see you guys later at the warehouse." Esther was revving the ninja bike and then quickly took off. I'm going to stop there. Hope you enjoyed that. That was reading 75. So until the next time, please be safe and take care.